This conference will now be recorded.
In yesterday's session, we were discussing about EC2. We almost covered all the topics of EC2. We were discussing about IP addresses. As I already told, you will have two IPs. One is private IP, another one is public IP. As I already told, it is not mandatory to have a server with public IP, which means, can I have a server with only private IP? Yes. So public IP is required. Public IP is required if you want to access that server from internet. If you don't want to expose that server to the internet only within intranet, locally you want to communicate, then private IP is sufficient. So since whatever subnets I have in this VPC, all subnets are public subnets. So am I having a server with public IP as well as private IP? Yes. Now, as I already told, these private IPs can be used within the same network. Suppose this server and this server is in same network. Can we use this private IP? Can I use this private IP of this server from this server or this server to communicate with this server, or vice versa? Suppose using Jenkins, I want to talk to this Docker server to do something, maybe to create a containers. I want to SSH and do something from this server to this server. Can I use private IP of this Docker server in my Jenkins pipelines if required to do something? Yes. But private IPs works only within the network, not internet. Now I can access using outside, I can access using public IP. What is the default behavior of public IP? As I already told, if I stop the server and start the server, it will change. Suppose I really need a public IP and I don't want my public IP to be changed. I want a static public IP address. I want a static public IP address. In AWS, if you want a static public IP address, there is a one more concept called elastic IP. Elastic IP. So I can use elastic IP. If I use elastic IP, does it mean my server will have three IP address? Private IP, public IP, elastic IP? No, not like that. This elastic IP will be your public IP. This elastic IP will be your public IP. Now, if I stop the server and start the server also, if I am using elastic IP, does the elastic IP will be the public IP will be changing if I stop the server and start the server? If I have elastic IP, no. Now, how to create a elastic IP? This is not elastic IP. Now, under networking and security, under this networking and security, you have elastic IPs. I can create a elastic IP here. I can create elastic IP here. I am creating one elastic IP. Now I have elastic IP, but is this elastic IP is associated with any instance I just created? Is it mapped with any instance? If you see, is it associated with any instance as of now? No. So I created elastic IP. Excuse me. I created elastic IP. I'll select that IP, go to actions, associate IP address. Now here, can I select whatever instance I want to associate that IP? Now suppose I want to attach to this server that elastic IP. I can select that IP and associate. Now this elastic IP is associated with this instance, that server, this server, this Jenkins server. Now, if you see, this is now elastic IP. My public IP is nothing but this elastic IP now. Now, can I connect to this server from internet? Can I access any service like a Tomcat service or database service or Jenkins service, whatever is running in that instance? Can I use this IP and that respective port on which your application, your service is running? From outside, I can access. Now SSH also one service. On port 22 it is running. If required, can I SSH to this server using this IP, that port 22? If the port is open, firewall is open. So we are getting some kind of a DNS names. Who is assigning this kind of a DNS names? This is assigned by AWS itself. You can use this IP or this name. You can use this IP or this name. Now if you see from my local laptop, am I able to reach that server on port 20? Am I able to reach that server on port 22? Because port 22 is also opened. But now I am trying to reach on port 8080. curl-v telnet 3.111. One second. curl-v telnet / that IP address I am using on port 8080. So I'm trying to reach this server on port 8080 from my local laptop. Is it allowing? No. So port 8080 is blocked. In the AWS security group, is that port 8080 is allowed here in that server AWS security group? No. It is not open. Let me open. Even though I open, do I need to have some service running in this port in that server? Suppose there is no service running on this port, like a Tomcat or Jenkins, like that. Nothing is running in this server on this port. Again, will I get a response? Even though I have opened the port. I have opened the port, but still, why it is saying now connection refused? Why it is saying connection refused? So because on this port nothing is running, it is saying connection refused. It is going to this server, it is going inside the server also, but do I have any service which is running on this port? So that's why it is saying connection refused. Okay. Now SSH is listening. So am I able to connect to that server using that respective PEM file with that username, whatever default user on that IP? This port is opened, port 22 is opened, so I am able to SSH. So I am able to connect to that server using public IP. But if you see, is anything running in this server on port 8080 as of now? This netstat command can be used to see what and all ports are used listening in that server. Do I have any port which is running on 8080 as of now? Any service? So from browser also, if I access that IP address and port 8080, will I get any response from the browser also if I access? No, because nothing is running on that port. Okay. So this is what public IP, private IP, and port. So here, guys, this TULNP, all the options of that netstat. So you can use help command, that man command, and what T, what ULNP. This is commands, Linux commands. So these are the options of this netstat command. You can use man command or help command to see what and all those things. So we are trying to discuss more important things here, not that one. Now here, if you remember, while creating this server, I have given user data. Did I give my user data while creating a server? Now, while creating a server, I have given user data. This is my user data script. So here itself, I can see what is my user data. We have given some user data. So in the detail section, let me scroll down. Keep a user data. So we have given user data, I can see somewhere here, but how can I know whether that user data is executed or not? Where exactly that logs will be captured? Yesterday, while creating a server, we have given user data. What is user data? Vineet is asking in one dialog box, right? Yesterday, did you attend that session, Vineet? So while creating a server, there is one input box, advanced details. Under advanced details, there is a concept called user data. So what is that user data? Yesterday we discussed. So user data is nothing but bootstrap script. Bootstrap script. What is the meaning of bootstrap script? The script which will be executed during the booting of the system. While creating a server itself, that script will be executed. Suppose yesterday I have given user data as git installation, but where exactly that will be captured? If you see, git is installed in this server. Git is installed in this server. How come this is installed? Because I have given in the user data, did I given that shebang line? It is going to install only one time, not for every. If you are stopping the server, if you are starting the server, it is not going to work. Only for the first time when we are creating the server, only during that time this will be done. Not if you stop the server, if you start the server, that won't execute. But where exactly I can see whether it is executed or not? In this server, there is a folder called log folder, where log. In that var log folder, they have one file cloud init output.log and cloud init log. So can I see whatever user data has been executed? Can I see the output of those here? This var log cloud init output.log. If you see, is my user data executed? Can I see that? So as part of this one, I have executed yum update, yum install git. As part of that user data, I have given yum install git. Do you see, is that user data successfully executed without any errors? If there are any errors in the script, If there are any errors in the script, your user data is not executed as expected, can I see in this log file? Can I come and verify this cloud init output.log file? Why it has not executed as expected? Can I verify? This is also sometimes important. Is everyone clear with EC2 now? What is EC2? What is user data? What is security group? What is public IP? What is private IP? What is elastic IP? Now, is elastic IP is chargeable? Is elastic IPs are chargeable? Yes, they are chargeable. Yes, elastic IPs are chargeable if some conditions are not met. What is the meaning of some conditions? If I just create elastic IP and it's not used, it is not used with any server, then will they charge? If they are not used any with any server, I just created a elastic IP and I am not using with any server, they will charge. They will charge. If I am not associated with any server, they will charge. Even though I associated, even though I attached elastic IP with some server, if server is not running, it is in stopped state, again will they charge? Even though you associated, but your server is not running, it is in a stopped state, will they charge? Yes. But if it is in a running state, if the server is in running state, they won't charge. If the server is in running state, they won't charge. So if you want to see more details about charges, you can go to elastic, this pricing, elastic IP charges or pricing. So this is the official website, understanding elastic IP charges. So elastic IP address doesn't incur charges as long as the following conditions are true. All these conditions has to be satisfied, then they will not charge. If the elastic IP address is associated with instance and instance should be running, instance is running. If they are not running, they are going to charge. How much they are going to charge? How much they are going to charge? Basically, I think per hour in Indian currency per elastic IP 5 rupees. Per hour per elastic IP 5 rupees, I think. In Indian currency, let me see in Mumbai region. So $0.10, something like this. Sorry, here $0.05, $0.05. This much they'll charge. Now, when we created EC2 instance, in the background, is it created one storage also? If I go to this server, if I go to this server here, this is your firewall, your security group. So this section displays information of this server networking. This server networking information will be displayed here. So this server is created in this VPC, this network, this private IP, this public IP, storage. So what is this? This server, what is this? Storage. So when we created this server, in the background, as I told yesterday, in the background, is it created one EBS value? When I created a server, in the background, it is going to use EBS value. The way we created EC2, when we are creating EC2, one volume is getting created. This we call it as a root value. So how many volumes are there as of now for that server? How many devices are attached to that server as of now for that server? As of now, if you see, only one. So that is the root value. That is the root value. So what is used, for what purpose this root value used? To boot the operating system. What is the meaning of root value, guys? What is the meaning of root value? Basically, volume is nothing but storage, disk. So what is the meaning of root value? That root volume can be instance storage, that is local storage, or EBS storage. Instance store or local store, as I told yesterday, that root volume can be instance store or local store. What is the meaning of instance store or local store? The storage from the underlying hardware, but that is temporary, as I told yesterday. That root volume can be local store or that instance store or EBS store. Now, what is the meaning of root value? Basically, the value which is attached to the volume, basically storage which is attached to root, which is mounted to root. So this is the root directory. In this root directory, you have a lot of directories like var, user, opt, etc. So does data all this data will be part of the storage, whatever is mounted with that root? Whatever data we have in all these directories, will it be part of that storage? Which means this server, this is my root. Does all these things, all the files, folders, data, is it part of this storage, this root storage, whatever is attached to this server? Is it part of this storage? Yes. Now, EC2 is just a server. EC2 is just a compute. In the background, does EC2 is using one more service, storage related service? Yes. In AWS, the way we have a compute services, AWS also offering storage services. So in AWS, we have some storage services. What are the storage services like EBS, EFS, S3, like this? So what is this EBS? What is the full form of EBS? Elastic Block Store. What is the EFS? What is the full form of EFS? Elastic File Store. And S3, full form of S3, Simple Storage Service. Before I explain what is EBS, what is EFS, and what is S3, we have some storage types. Those are like a block store, file store, object store. These are storage related, guys. It is nothing to do with AWS, it is nothing to do with Azure or on-prem storage, whether you are using cloud storage, whether you are using on-prem storage, whether you are using GCP, Azure, AWS storage. These concepts are same. This block store, file store, object store. This is storage types. So the data which we can maintain in block store or file store or object store. Suppose whatever storage I am using, if it is a block store, how the data will be maintained in the background? Anyone has any idea how the data will be maintained in the block store? Anyone from storage background? We are just discussing at high level what is block store, what is file store. So if we are maintaining data in a block store, the data will be splitted into multiple equal distributed blocks. Suppose I have some data, some file. Will it be stored in the underlying storage as a single entity, single pointer, single entity if it is a block store? No. The data will be splitted into multiple equally distributed blocks. Each block will have a inode. So if the data is getting maintained in a block store, the data will be distributed in the underlying storage into multiple blocks, multiple pieces. So whenever we are updating the data, is it going to replace that entire data, that entire file, or it is going to just update the piece of block which is getting updated over that file? It is just going to update only that block, that piece of block, not the entire file. So do we have some better performance in the block store when we are updating the data? If it is underlying storage is block store, yes. So in AWS, to support this block store, AWS is offering one type of service. That is what? EBS, Elastic Block Store. What is the full form of EBS? Elastic Block Store. Suppose if I am using Azure Cloud, Azure also has a similar to storage services. Whatever we have AWS in these services, right? In AWS, in Azure also they have some services. This block store, they are going to support. They will call as what? Azure Disk. Azure Disk in AWS. Azure Disk. This is a block store. So Azure File, Azure File, like this they have. In GCP also we have a Google Persistent Disk, Google Persistent Disks for block storages, right? This is general terminology. So in the block store, the data will be maintained in a multiple equally distributed blocks, not as a single entity. When I'm using file store, this is traditional files, file systems or file stores. Each file will have some unique identity, metadata. Each file will have a metadata. That metadata contains path of the file, the location of the file, right? The size of the file. So hierarchical data. So this is going to be maintained as a single entity. But when I have to use block store or file store, do I need to mount these storages with my servers? Do I need to mount these storages with my servers? Then only I can read and write the data to these storages, whether it's a block store or file store. If I don't mount these storages with my servers, my devices, will I able to read and write the data to these storages, block store or file store? No. Now there is a one more storage called object store. This object store, each object, basically data or file, each object will have a unique ID. Each object will get unique ID and endpoint URL. So each object will get a unique ID and endpoint URL if we upload data in object store. And can we access this data from anywhere? We can access the data from anywhere if it is part of object store. Just to give an example, we guys are using Google Drives, Gmail, Google Drives or Microsoft OneDrive. So we are uploading some files to the Google Drive, OneDrive or Dropbox, like that. Are we really mounting that storage with our laptops or mobiles just to read and write the data from that Google Drives, OneDrives, like that? Are we really mounting those devices with our mobiles or laptops? No, right? So from anywhere, will I able to access the data if it is part of object storage via URL, through URL? Do I really need to mount the servers if I am maintaining the data in an object store like Gmail, that Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, all those things? Not required. But without mounting this file store and block store, will I able to read the data and write the data to these storages from my servers? No. So this object store in AWS, we have it as a, we call this as a S3. So simple storage service. So it is what type of storage? Object store. So without mounting this S3 with my servers, will I able to read and write the data from S3 from anywhere? Yes. So in GCP also we have some services. We call it as a GCS buckets. GCS bucket. In AWS, we have a service called S3 that is of object store. In GCP also, we have some service for that one. In GCP, we call it as a GCS bucket. In Azure also, we have some services for that. That we call it as a Azure Blob Store. Azure Blob Store. Everyone is doing the same business, guys, as I told, which means AWS, Azure, GCP, all are doing same. What they are trying to offer? They are trying to offer cloud computing services based on the demand. So if I need a server, can I go and create in Azure cloud or GCP cloud or AWS cloud if required? Yes. If required, can I create a storage for my applications, my servers in Azure cloud, GCP cloud? Yes. All are doing the same business, but the terminologies will be different. So these are the general storage concept. So for block store, AWS is offering EBS. For file store, AWS is offering EFS. Object store, S3. Now the root device, the booting device, always it should be what type of store, guys? Can I use object store to boot my operating system? Can I use file store to boot my operating system? The root device, the root value, can I use file store, object store? No. So what type of storage I should use to booting my operating system? Block store. Block store. So this is my root operating system. Is my OS is booted? Is that root volume is mounted? Make it simple. df-kh. It is giving mount points. So this is the root. Is it mounted with this device? So what is this device? This is one storage. This one. This is one storage. So everything, whatever files, whatever folders are getting created under root directory, is it part of this storage? I mean to say this disk which is used for this server? Yes. Now I just tagged as Jenkins server here, but did I really install Jenkins or any other software as of now in this server? No. Now I can install Jenkins. Now if I will install Jenkins, but if I start the Jenkins, what is the Jenkins working directory, guys? In which directory Jenkins will maintain all its plugins, jobs, configurations? What is the Jenkins working directory? It is going to maintain everything in var lib Jenkins. Now, if I install Jenkins in this server, if I start the Jenkins as is it going to use this root storage? Because this is not mounted explicitly with other storage. So all my Jenkins data will be part of this disk itself. If I install Jenkins and if I start as is, does this varlib Jenkins is also part of this storage? Because this I have not explicitly mounted with any other storage. This I have not explicitly mounted with any other storage. So does all the Jenkins is also part of this storage, the disk? Now, if I terminate this server, by default, does the root volume gets terminated? If I terminate this server, does the root volume gets terminated? Yes. So does your Jenkins data also gets terminated? Because it is part of that storage itself? Yes. Basically, we have to use root volumes only for booting the operating system. You have to use root volumes only for booting the operating system. To maintain your application data or your database data, is it is recommended to create an additional value, and mount that additional disk with your directory. So I can create additional value, additional disk, and I will attach this disk to this server. I will attach this disk to this server. Then if I mount this directory of this server, if I mount with this device, does all the Jenkins data will be part of this disk? Only operating system and Jenkins software is part of root, but the Jenkins data is part of this storage. Now, even though this server is terminated, or there is some issue with your OS, your root value. Suppose this root value got corrupted, your OS got corrupted. Do I still have a data, Jenkins data, in a separate storage? If this is terminated or if this OS is corrupted, do I still have data in a separate disk? For some reason, this OS is corrupted. I am not able to boot this system. I am not able to start this system because of this OS is corrupted. Now, if I have my Jenkins data in a separate server, additional value, can I create one more server, new server? Can I create new EC2 instance? Is it going to get its own root value? Is it going to get its own root value? Is it going to get its own root value again? New root value, where OS will be booted. Then I can install Jenkins. Then can I mount this storage with this new server, and can I mount this directory again with this new server? So if I start Jenkins again in this new server, will I have all my Jenkins data restored or recovered? Yes. So it is recommended to use the root volume only for booting the operating system and installing the softwares. You will install Jenkins, but the Jenkins directory you mount with a different disk, different storage. So does Jenkins will write all its data to this disk instead of root disk if I do like this? Yes, this is recommended. This is recommended actually. I'm just giving an example of Jenkins. Suppose I'm installing database. Let's say in one of the server I'm installing database like Mongo database or MySQL database. Again, in this server I'm installing Mongo database or MySQL database. Is it recommended to maintain your database files in the root volume of the database server? No. So for this server also, can I create a separate disk, separate volume, and can I mount that database directory of this server? I install database in this server. Then can I mount the database directory? Suppose if it is a Mongo database, this is the database directory, data/db directory, or maybe just a data directory. So if I mount this directory with this disk, does Mongo will write all its data to this disk? Even though this is gone, can I recover my database with a new server by attaching the storage back to that new server? This is how we will use, guys. This is how we will use. Now, as of now, how many volumes has been attached to this server? How many volumes has been attached to this server as of now? Only one. Only one volume. The size of that volume is 10 GB. The size of the disk is 10 GB, only one volume. Now, if you see, I can see this. How many block storages has been attached to this server? This command I can execute, lsblk. What is the meaning of this lsblk? List block storages. How many disks has been attached? How many block storages has been attached? Only one. Only one. But again, if you see, what is this? They have partitioned the disk. They have partitioned the disk. So only one disk, one value, they have partitioned. And is this attached to root? Is this attached to root? Is this disk attached to root? Whatever is already used here? Yes. Now, let me install Jenkins now. In this server, let me install Jenkins. We will install Jenkins. Jenkins will be installed. The software will be part of either user bin or OPT, right? Softwares will be part of the root itself, but that software will be using another disk to maintain the data. So I will first install Jenkins here. I will install Jenkins here. I hope you guys know how to install Jenkins. There are plenty of ways to install Jenkins. You might have followed whatever Bhaskar sir might have explained. I hope you guys know how to install Jenkins. I am doing the same now. In this server, I am trying to install Jenkins. Just to give an example, I am following official website. So I want to install Jenkins in Linux machine. My Linux machine is Red Hat. So I hope you guys done all these things already. I no need to explain. I am installing Jenkins software here. So wget is not there. Let me install wget. Guys, don't by heart the commands, understand the concept. Now I am explaining what is block storage, how can we attach disk to the server, how can I mount the disk with some directory in the server. So don't focus on these commands. Now I am not explaining Jenkins, I am explaining storage, how to attach storage to the server, how can I mount specific directory to that server. Now I am just installing Jenkins now here. Let me import that Jenkins RPM file. Now I will install Java because Jenkins requires Java. Now these softwares are getting installed. These software related files are getting maintained in which one? Root only. These software related files are getting installed in the root only. That root operator, root value. Now Java is installed. Now let me install Jenkins. Let me install Jenkins. Is that error resolved? Earlier we used to get that demonize dependency is not there. Use -hyphen no best some option was coming. I think recently they fixed that problem maybe. Earlier I think you guys were using that use -hyphen no best option. I don't see that error coming now. Let's see. Because they might have included that dependent package also as part of that RPM file. Let's see how it works. Yeah, Jenkins is getting installed. Okay. Now Jenkins is installed. Now if I start the Jenkins service, is it going to use that root device itself? Is it going to start using that root disk itself to maintain all the files of the Jenkins plugins, jobs, everything will be part of that one. So sudo service. I am not starting, guys. I am not starting. I am just checking the status. So it is not running. Now, if I start this Jenkins, is it going to maintain all the data in the root volume itself? Because we have not explicitly mounted this varlib directory with another disk. So it is going to be part of this one. But as I already told, is it recommended to do that? Is it recommended to maintain your application data or whatever software data as part of the root? No. So when you guys are use Jenkins, you focused only on Jenkins. That is correct, because you are working on only Jenkins, you are focusing on only Jenkins. But if someone is working on infrastructure, so they has to explain you should not do this. You have to create additional disk like this. Suppose you don't have access to manage infrastructure. Does infrastructure team will help you to create this disk and attach the disk to your server? Suppose you don't have access. This will be done by the team who is managing the infrastructure. So they will create some additional disk. They will attach that additional disk to this server, and they will ask you to use this disk to store the Jenkins data. But when you guys done Jenkins, you have not done that one. It was part of your root itself. Now I'll not do this. Now, if required, can I create a one more EBS volume, and can I attach that EBS volume, that EBS disk to this server if required now? We can do that. Now, here, this block store, elastic block store, you have a volume section. I can see already some volumes, but all these are root volumes of those servers. Now I can see 3 volumes. Is this volume is already used for that server as a root volume? This volume is used for that Jenkins server as a root volume. This one is used for one more server as a root volume. Here, can I create one more volume, additional volume for my requirement now? Yes. So I'm clicking on create value. I'm clicking on create value. Now, what type of value? Suppose you need a better performance in reading and writing the data to the disk. Which one is recommended? You need a very good IOPS, input output operations per second per GB, which is recommended here. You have to go with provisioned IOPS, this one. So general purpose is also fine. For my use case, I am going with general purpose. If you see, for additional volumes, is it supporting HDD also as of now? Is AWS is offering HDD disks also for additional disks, additional volumes? For additional values, yes. But again, AWS is not recommended to use HDD because they are going to deprecate, they are going to remove these storages soon. Go with SSD only. Now I am going with SSD. Now what is the size? In the interview also they will ask, what is EBS size? What is the size of EBS disk? What is the max size, I can say? What is the max size of EBS? So this max size is 16 TB. What is the meaning of 16 TB? Can I create a disk with 6000 GB of capacity? Can I create the EBS disk with 6000 GB of capacity? Sorry, 16,000 GB. 16,000 GB of capacity, yes. Minimum size. What is the minimum size? This is max size. Max size. Minimum size. 1 GB. 1 GB. Minimum size 1 GB. Here you can see minimum 1 GB, maximum 16,384. 16,384. So I'll not create this much based on your requirement. How much disk you need to maintain your Jenkins data. For now, I am just taking 10 GB. Guys, if I create 1000 GB like this, are they going to apply the charge for this 1000 GB? Whether I am using this 1000 GB or not, the charges are applicable because you are reserving the storage in the AWS. So I don't want to get much charges. I'm just using 10 GB. One more important point to be remembered here. Now, this EC2 instance, this EC2 instance is in Mumbai region. This EC2 instance is in Mumbai region. This Jenkins server is in Mumbai region in some availability zone. Let's say this is in one availability zone. When we created a server, did we selected that subnet? That subnet is in some availability zone. While creating a server, did we created subnet? That subnet is in some availability zone. No. As of now, this is my Jenkins server. Let's say in which availability zone that Jenkins server is created. You can see here. In which availability zone in that Mumbai region that Jenkins server is created. You can see here AP South 1B. So what is AP South 1? What is the meaning of AP South 1? Region. AP South 1, Mumbai region. Within that Mumbai region, in which availability zone this server is created? 1B. So this is in one availability zone. Now this is in this availability zone. I already have a root value. Now within this Mumbai region, let's consider this is Mumbai region. So within this Mumbai region, let's assume this is your Mumbai region. This is your Mumbai region. Within this Mumbai region, can I have another availability zone, another subnet or availability zone like this? I have another availability zone. So, sir, do we have a control to create instance in desired availability zone? Someone is asking. Yes, Ashish. So, while creating a server, right? While creating the server, you selected AMI. Yesterday also I shown you selected AMI. Here you selected instance type. If you want to give any user data, you can give in the next page. Here, what is this? This is network. What is this? The subnet. These subnetworks are created in some availability zone. So this is 1A, 1B, 1C like this. So when I created a server, suppose I want to create the server in this subnet, in this availability zone. Can I select like this? So does that server will be created in this availability zone? In that region? Yes. So yesterday we have done like this. If I don't select anything, does the AWS will randomly create? Does AWS will randomly create? Suppose I am saying no preference. It will randomly create in whatever availability zone it has to create. Now yesterday it has created in 1B availability zone. Now Krishna Prasad is asking, can I change the subnet after creating the instance? No, you cannot change. You cannot change. Now this is in this location, but if I create a EBS, that EBS in this this availability zone, is it possible for me to attach this one? Very, very important. Will I able to attach this storage with this server? No. So the most important point to be remembered here, EC2 instance and EBS should be in what? Not only region, not only region, same availability zone. It should be in same availability zone. What is the meaning of AZ? Availability zone. It should be in same availability zone. Now, while creating a volume, I am trying to create a volume. Now, if this volume is getting created in this availability zone, 1A, if I create this volume in this availability zone, and my Jenkins server is running in 1B, can I attach this volume with my Jenkins server if I create this volume in 1A availability zone like this? No. So make sure it is in the same availability zone. Now, if I want to use this storage with Jenkins server, do I need to select availability zone as 1B because my Jenkins server is in 1B? Yes. So I'm selecting as 1B availability zone. What is this encryption? Because since we are not covering complete AWS and we are not covering AWS administration, I am not explaining this one, but let me give an overview. So encryption is a mechanism to store your data in an encrypted format. So encryption at rest. So if I enable this encryption option, the data at rest, the data in the disk, will it be maintained as a plain text or it will be encrypted and maintained in the rest? If I enable this option, there is a one more service called KMS service, key management services. It will use some keys and it will maintain the data in an encrypted format at rest. So which means the guy who is working on the AWS data center also, if they don't have keys, what you are using to encrypt this disk, will they able to decrypt and understand the data even though they have their hard disk with your disk with them? The guy who is working in AWS data center, if they don't have your keys, the keys you use to encrypt this disk, will they able to decrypt and see what data you are maintaining who is working in AWS data center also? They can't do anything. So there is a data security. In real time, we are going to use this one also. As an AWS administrators, they will follow all the best practices to secure your data, secure your servers, everything. But this is a different service. So I need to create some keys. It will encrypt at rest, which means when you are saving the data, it is in rest. Rest in the sense, just storing. It will maintain in an encrypted format. But this I am not enabling as of now. I am just creating a EBS volume with a 10 GB capacity in 1B availability zone. Now, what is this tag? Metadata. Can I give some tag like this? Jenkins volume or disk like this? Jenkins volume, something like this. Can I give some metadata identification purpose like this? Yes. Now I am creating a volume like this. Now, is the disk is provisioned in the AWS data center in that availability zone? Now this Jenkins value. But if you see, is this value is used with any server or it is available? It is still creating. But once it is created, can I see this disk is available? Is it used with any server as of now? No. Now, can I attach this disk like a virtually you are connecting, guys? You can think when I select this button, when I select on attach, in the background you can imagine like you are connecting that disk with that server. Virtually it is going to happen. Now, sorry, I have that value. I have that value. It is available. It is not used with any server. As of now, that Jenkins server has how many block storages? You can see as of now, how many block storages are there for that server as of now? As of now, that Jenkins server, only one. Now let me attach this one. Select this value, whatever you have created, actions. Here, do I have an option to attach the value? Which means attaching the disk. So click on this attach value. Now, since this value is in 1B availability zone, here if you see, is it showing only the servers which is run created? One second. Let me log in. For some reason, it is logged out. Let me log in. Uma Shankar is asking, sir, can't we mount volume after starting the Jenkins? Suppose if I start the Jenkins, I get the initial password, I click on that install suggested plugins, and I have done that. Later also I can mount. But if I mount later, whatever earlier it was used, it is part of root storage. Whatever plugins you installed, will it be again? You can see if you attach new value, will you able to see those plugins jobs after you started Jenkins and you used Jenkins, and later you started attaching different disk? Will you able to see whatever plugins, whatever jobs you already created? No. So that's why I have not started. I will start after attaching this server. I will start Jenkins after attaching this server. Hope you are clear. If I start later attach, what will happen? Now, my volume is in 1B availability zone, and here is it showing only the servers which are running in same availability zone? Even though I have 3 servers, is it showing all the 3 servers here? In my EC2 section, I can see 3 servers, but is it showing all the 3 servers here when I am attaching? No, only whatever is in 1B. Now, can I attach to this server? As per my requirement, can I attach this volume to this server, Jenkins server? Yes. Then what is this device name? You no need to touch anything here. The device name, each disk, each device will have some names. So this is the additional device name. Don't modify anything, leave it as is. I am attaching the value. The moment I click on attach value, if I go here and execute that lsblk, now can I see that storage also now, that xvdf 10 GB capacity, that new disk in this server? Yes. Now, can I use this as is? Can I use this as is? Can I start Jenkins now? No. First of all, do I need to mount that wireless Jenkins with this device? We need to mount. But before mounting, this is just a raw storage. This is just a raw storage. Do you need to format this disk? Do you need to format this disk with some type of storage? Whether you want to use ext file system or xfs file system, there are different types. Do you need to create a file system of which type? With not nfs guys, I'm talking about there are different types like ext2, ext4, xfs storage types, not nfs here I'm talking about. So I need to format this disk because initially I'm using. Now, is that file device is formatted? You can see like this. This is raw storage, raw disk. What this dev stands for? What this dev stands for? Device. This is my device name. Now, do you have any format is created, do we have any files also part of this device already? Do we have any files, any format is configured on this device as of now? Do we have any files in this as of now? Nothing is there. I cannot mount this as is because this is a raw storage. So first, do I need to make some file system like this? ext4, xfs, ext2, there are different types of storages. So I am trying to use which format? I am trying to format this disk something like this, sudo mkfs ext4 type this device. So is it going to format this disk now if I execute like this? Now it is created with these many blocks, these many inodes. We got a file system ID also. This is your ID of that unique ID of that storage. Now once I do this, then I can mount. Then what is the command to mount? How can I mount this disk, this device with that varlib Jenkins? You might have already used a command. Bhaskar sir might have explained command. What is the command, guys, which I can use to mount? Mount command. Mount command. So why I am using sudo as a normal user, as a non-root user, as a normal user, will I able to manage disks and mounts? No. So I am using something like this: sudo mount /dev /xvdf. So this device xvdf /dev /xvdf, with which directory I want to mount as per my requirement? Varlib Jenkins. But you may have a question, sir, when this is created? Did you have not created manually this Varlib Jenkins? You have not executed mkdir, this one, when this is created? Because when I installed Jenkins using package manager, m install Jenkins, when I executed that m install Jenkins, is that folder got created? Yes. So now I am mounting like this. I am mounting like this. Now if you see df-kh, now is this varlib Jenkins is mounted with this device? You can execute lsblk also. Is this varlib Jenkins is mounted with this device, which means any files, folders that gets created under this varlib Jenkins directory, will it be part of this disk? Will it store as part of this disk? Any file folder manually or programmatically getting created under this directory, under varlib Jenkins. If something is getting created under just varlib or under just var, will it still part of this one? If some file is getting created just under var or just under varlib, will it be part of still this one root? Yes. So if any file or folder is just created under var directory or varlib directory, still it is part of this one only. But whatever gets created under varlib Jenkins directory, will it be part of this disk? Yes. Now I have mounted. Now I can start Jenkins. But this is temporary mount. If I stop this server and if I reboot this server, if I stop and start the server, does this mounts will be automatically used again? If I stop and if I start the server? No. This is like a temporary mount. Now if I want to permanently mount on the reboot also, this device has to be mounted with this directory. This device has to be mounted with this directory again. If I stop and start the server also, where I need to update those files, those details? In the fs tab file, in under etc, you have one file called fs tab. So if you see, they already have one entry. So this is for which value? If you see, this is the mount point, the type of that device. So they already have for root. Similarly, can I have this entry for this disk in that fstab file, so that even though I stop and start the server, this will again mount with that disk? We need to do that. So how to do that? Carefully you need to do this. If required, you can follow official documents also, guys. Here we already created, we already formatted with whatever type you want to type. But when I am formatting, did I formatted with XFS type? That device, whatever device I created and attached, did I done like this? No. Which type I used? Instead of like this, I used this command. You can use something like this also, ext4, or I have just used .ext4, like this I have used. I have formatted like this. Then I mounted. They have given example here /data. This is just an example. But in my use case, with which directory I have mount? With which directory I have mount? They have just given sample here. Which directory I have mount as per my requirement? Varlib Jenkins. I have done like this. This is temporary. But if I want to permanently do this, automatically mount an attached value after reboot also. Automatically mount an attached value after reboot also. Thus mounts has to be defined in which file, as I already told? etc fstab file. etc fstab file. Now they're just optionally they're saying create a backup of this file. They're saying it is optional. You can create a backup. Suppose you have not properly updated this file, at least can you revert back with a backup? Can you again, if you are not able to successfully do, if you have a backup file, can I again make sure you are not able to successfully do the changes, you can revert back to the original file? So they are saying optionally create a backup. So something like this, it is optional. If you are already expert, you can do that, but as a best practice, I am creating a backup like .original file. Backup file has been created. Then you need to get the id, that id of that device. You need to get the id of this device. You need to get the id of this device. When I executed that sudo mkfs, it has given one id. But if I don't have that id handy, I can use this command. So if you are using Red Hat or CentOS based systems, you can use this command to see the id of that devices. If you are using Ubuntu, you can use this option also. Now I am using this command to get the id of this device. Something like this. Now, is it returning the device as well as the id? Now this is the device. This is the id of that device. What type you used? ext4. But if you see this one, this is the root device, and what type they formatted initially? That root XFS. Now I need this one. So let me take this one. After executing this command, it is returning the devices and their IDs and the type. Now I have those IDs. Then can I make changes in my etc fstab file? Can I edit using sudo vi that etc fstab? Can I make entry like this for that one? Yes. So sudo vi etc fstab. Here I can make an entry. Guys, don't touch anything on this root one, because if you have done wrongly, if you stop that server and if you start this server again, sorry, Let me don't save. If you start that server and if you stop and start this server, if you have done some changes here, does your server will be able to boot successfully? If you delete some entry here in this line, if you start the server and start that server, will it able to boot successfully? No. So don't make any changes here. Now they have given a sample here, but can I copy this as is whatever they have given here? This is just a sample, guys. So here I have to replace as per my IDs. So here, can I use this ID under UUID section? Can I use this ID? Whatever I got. Then here, is this correct? Is slash data is correct? No. What is this? Slash var slash lib slash Jenkins. Then is this correct? Is this option correct? Because what type I used for the disk? ext4. So these are the options. Even though this is not able to mount, don't stop rebooting the system. So it can still boot because this is additional value. You can use this option no fail. Suppose if I don't use this no fail, it is not able to mount this value. Does your server will be come up if I don't use this option? Because this is an additional value. Even though it is not able to mount, you can use this one. So this is my line. I'll take this line and I will paste here. Something like this. Something like this. I will save the change. But without verifying whether you have done changes properly or not, if you stop the server and start the server, if you start the server and start the server, then it won't work. So how can I verify? How can I verify whether it is successfully done or not? I can first unmount. I can first unmount. I can just unmount. It is mounted. I can unmount like this. Sudo unmount like this. Sudo unmount the directory varlib Jenkins. I unmounted. Now since I have done the changes in fstab file, if I execute like this sudo mount -a, is this internally going to use that fstab file? Is it internally going to use that fstab file and mount all the mounts again back? But if I have not done the changes correctly in fstab file, will this command will throw error? If I have not done the changes correctly in that fstab file, it will throw errors. Do the verification first. So I have not received any errors. I have not received any errors. It is again successfully able to mount this back with this device, which means, do I have the done, did I done the changes correctly in etc fstab file now? Yes. But if you are getting some errors, and you are not able to resolve what they are trying to say, if you are getting some errors, you are not expert in that area, what they are trying to say, if you are not able to resolve, what they are trying to say, restore back with original. But I have not get any errors. It's successfully done. Now, even though I stop and start this Jenkins server now, does this folder will be automatically mounted with this device? Even though I stop and start this server, did I done this mount permanently? Yes. Now, if I start Jenkins now, is it going to use this disk to store Jenkins related data? I am starting like this sudo service Jenkins. As of now, it is still down. I am starting the Jenkins. It is taking some time. Let's wait. Why it is taking this much time? maybe because of CPU and memory. Let's see. Let's wait for some time. Just give me a minute. I'll be back. Let it start. 1 minute. I'll be back. Let me see. For some reason, it is not able to start. Let me see the status once again. It is stopped for some reason. One second. Let me try to start one more time. Maybe the compatibility issues we have. So this enable, what it does basically, it will enable on the bootstrap, that systemctl. Maybe the Java which I have installed is not compatible. Let's see. Now I have executed this enable. Let's see now if I can start. Let me see the logs of that Jenkins log file, if I can get something. Now let me see what is the problem. Yes, we can remove Jenkins in that server and again install. That is also possible, but let me see what is the problem. Where lib Jenkins, that log file, if I have anything. It is not being used. Maybe permission issues, but sometimes permission issue comes also. Let me do that, because as a when I am executing this command, that mount command sudo I have used. So when I am using sudo, this directory is modified with permissions. It's modified with permissions. So root permissions is there. But Jenkins will be started as which user? Jenkins will be started as which user? Jenkins user. So let me see the changes. How can I change the ownership of that varlib Jenkins to the Jenkins user Jenkins group? Let's see that problem also. So how can I say change ownership? Ch own, change ownership recursively. I am going to make this one for Jenkins and Jenkins. Jenkins colon Jenkins recursively that var lib Jenkins directory. Now let me see if I can start now at least. Maybe I'll try to uninstall and I will use JDK8 if this is not going to work. Otherwise, I have to point Java path. Still it is not working. Maybe I'll uninstall and I'll do that. Maybe it is not able to point to the Java. So maybe I need to install JDK8 because I installed JDK11, I think. Let me do that. Otherwise, I need to see alternatives and set properly. Let me stop. Why to waste much time? So anyhow, Jenkins is not working. So let me do this sudo yum remove. I will remove this one. Whatever has been installed. What Java version I have installed? This one. Let me remove this. I am removing this one. I don't think I have Java now in this machine. Java C also not there. Okay, fine. Now, anyhow, without Java Jenkins, it will not work. Now let me see if I can install Java 8. Java 8. Java 8 is not there. That package name, anyone can remember? Anyone remember that package name, Java 8? So let me install Java 8. Instead of Java 11, I'll install Java 8. Something like this. 1.8.0, something like this. I'm installing Java hyphen 1.8.0. Now I'm installing Java 8. I'm installing Java 8. Now let's see, this time I can start Jenkins. Yeah. So what is the problem, guys? Why Jenkins was not able to start initially? I was using Java 11 and which was not compatible with whatever Jenkins I installed. So that's why I installed which version of Java now. So when you are installing, install like this. When you are installing, you can follow this website, but instead of installing here Java 11, you can follow this website, but instead of installing Java 11, you install Java 8. So this command you change when you are practicing. So you use this one here. Now Jenkins is started. And I have changed the ownership also, guys. If you don't change the ownership, again you will get a error because you are using root. And when you go and open the Jenkins, you will see some error. In the browser, you will see some error. So you need to change the ownership also like this. Did I already done that ownership change? This one, ch1. You need to do this one also. If you don't do this and start Jenkins, Jenkins page will come. But does Jenkins user have any permissions to write data to this directory? Does Jenkins user will be able to write any files to this directory? No. So this is also done. So you will get some errors. You do this one also. You do this one also. Now I already opened that port. That Jenkins port is already opened in that server security group. Can I go and access now on that port? 8080 is already opened in the server security group. Now am I able to see the Jenkins homepage here? This is my initial root password. This is my initial root password. I can get from here. I can get from here. This is my initial root password. Now, whatever plugins, whatever configurations, whatever jobs you are going to create, so is it going to maintain? Is Jenkins is using your root disk to maintain all Jenkins related data, all these plugins, whatever configurations you do in Jenkins, all your pipelines, jobs, will it be part of root storage after this, whatever we have done? No. It is part of that additional disk, additional value, additional disk, additional value, this additional value. So this server has how many disks as of now? If I go to this server and storage, how many disks are attached? How many EBS volume? 2. So this one is root, one is additional. So now OS and software is part of root. Is your Jenkins data is part of that additional disk? Now you are creating some pipelines, you are creating some jobs like that. Now all will be part of this directory. So Jenkins is going to maintain the data in this directory, varlib Jenkins. Now this directory is mounted with this disk. So does all these files will be part of this disk? You see already some jobs, files, all these things are getting created. It is part of this disk. Now if I terminate this server, does this additional volume gets terminated, guys? If I terminate this server, does this additional volume gets terminated? No. Now that additional disk will be still there. If required, can I create one more server where I can install Jenkins, and can I attach this disk to that new server? In that server, again, will I able to see all the my Jenkins data, Jenkins jobs, plugins in that new Jenkins instance also? Yes, that is how it is going to work. Now, before we proceed further, one more important interview related question here. Now, I created like this. Can I attach that EBS value with one more EC2 instance? Is it possible? Can I attach one EBS value with multiple EC2 instances? Which means, can I use this EBS value with this server also? Varlib Jenkins. So this is already attached to this server. Can I again use with this server? No. Your block storages are not shared storages, which means you cannot share that storage with multiple servers. You cannot attach that storage with multiple servers. At any point of time, this will be attached to one server. If required, can I detach from this server and attach to another server like this? Detach from this server and again attach and mount, but at the same point, Is it possible like this? This server also? No. But AWS now it is supporting multiple EBS. I mean to say multi-attach EBS, but that is not going to be a block storage. So it is not going to work like this. It will have its own root value. Does this server will get its own root value to boot the operating system? Root value, this server will get its own root value, but this one cannot be attached like this. If required, I can remove from this one, this server, I can attach to this server. But at a given point of time, can one EBS value can be attached and accessed from multiple servers, multiple EC2 instances? No. But one EC2 instance, can it have multiple EBS values with how many values, how many mounts you want to have like this? Yes. So is everyone clear about what is EBS, how to create additional EBS and how to attach additional EBS? Now coming back to the question, can I modify the EBS value once it is created while it is in use? Which means I created this EBS with 10 GB. Now Jenkins, I am trying to create lot of jobs, lot of pipelines are getting executed. Suppose this is almost reached 10 GB. Does your Jenkins will work after it is reaching 10 GB? Will you able to run your pipelines? Will you able to create? No. In that case, is it possible for me to modify the EBS value while it is in use? Can I modify the EBS value while it is in use? Yes, we can do that. Someone was asking this SDF is also belongs to that EBS. So as I already told, whatever you see here, what is that? Those are device names. Those are device names. This SDA1, SDF, these are device names, names of the device. This SDA, whatever starts with SDA, that is root. Whatever start with SDF, that is additional value. Okay. Now this is 10 GB. Is it possible for me to modify this value while it is in use? Now I almost consumed 10 GB. Is it possible for me to modify while it is in use? Yes, you can modify. Guys, there is some network issue. In my system is very slow. It is not able to install any plugin because I am in some remote location. I have some very slow network. That's why it is not able to properly do this. But when you do this, it will work. You don't need to worry. Now, while it is in use, can I modify? Now how much capacity that Jenkins storage is there? 10 GB. Now can I go to volume section? From here also I can go, or from here also I can go. Can I modify this volume while it is in use, this Jenkins storage? I can select, I can go and modify the value. But I can only increase the value. I already have 10 GB. Will I able to decrease the value from 10 GB to 8 GB or 10 GB to 9 GB or 5 GB? Is it allowed to decrease the volume size? No. But from 10 GB, can I change it to 15 GB? Yes. Can I change the volume type also? I created with general purpose SSD. Can I change it to SSD, provisioned IAP SSD if required? Can I change the volume type also? Yes. You can change the volume type. You can increase the size, but will it allow to decrease the size of the value? No. Now I am changing it to 15 GB. I am modifying 15 GB. Now if I go to that server, if I execute lsblk, what is the size of that volume now? 15 GB. But do I need to resize? Do I need to resize this disk again? If you see in the mounts, is it using 15 GB as of now or still 9 GB, 10 GB? you increase this one, but do I need to resize this? Do I need to resize this for this directory? If you see, still it is 10 GB only. So you increased, but you need to claim that storage. You need to claim that storage for this disk. So that can be done by using some commands. Like there is a command called growfs. There is a command called growfs. You need to execute that fs command, growfs command, like this. So like this. If you are using XFS type, you can use this command. I used what type of format? ext4. So can I execute this command, resize fs? This one, sudo that resize fs on that directory. So I'm claiming that again, whatever has been increased, I will execute something like this, varlib jenkins. Something like, oh sorry, not varlib jenkins, that device /dev/xvdf, that device. Now I executed that one, resize on that device. Now can I see that 15 GB is used again for this this directory now? Is it that 15 GB is available for this directory? When I execute this resize fs on this device, is this directory is able to use 15 GB now? Like this, can I increase the volume size while it is in use? Did I stop my server? Did I stop my Jenkins to increase the size of that volume? No. Is everyone clear what is this EBS? How to attach additional EBS? How to modify EBS size while it is in use? Is everyone clear, guys? What our topics has been discussed? Okay. So I'll continue on Monday. I will continue on Monday. What is the snapshots? EBS snapshots. In AWS, the way we have a volumes, we have a snapshots. What is the snapshots? How to take a snapshots? We will continue on Monday. Still, we will discuss on EBS. So if you terminate the instance where the volume is available, the volumes will be available in AWS. AWS data center. The storages will be still there in AWS data center. You can again attach that storage back to your new server. Under volume section, you can still see that additional value, even though you terminate that server. In your account, it will be still there. So Monday, I'll continue with the snapshots, guys, and lifecycle manager. I want you to practice whatever has been discussed today. Will you guys create a volume and mount that volume with your Jenkins server and do this whatever I have done, so that you can understand how it works? But actually, as I already told, this infrastructure will be maintained by separate teams. Your servers, storage, networks will be provisioned, managed by separate teams. But if you work on small startup companies, or if you are into infrastructure team, you need to take care all these things also. But it is good to know what is infrastructure, what is server, what is storage, what is network, even though you are not working. Thank you, guys. That's it for today. I'll continue on Monday. Have a great weekend. Come with practice. I want you to practice. Without practicing, it is very difficult to remember, answer all these questions in the interview. Not only in the interview, if you have these type of requirements in your actual projects, you are going to do these type of things only. If you have actually these type of requirements, will it be easy for you to go and do the implementation as per the given requirement in your project also? If you have already done lot of practice, yes. Thank you, guys. I'll continue on Monday. Have a great weekend. Thank you. See you on Monday.